Hey everyone, this is Brooke Clonce and Carly Dalton. Today we have Lane Northcutt with us. He is an indie author and he just recently published The Delivery Company, which is part of the Delivery Company series, and it's available anywhere books are sold. Check it out on Amazon, Kindle, or even Barnes & Noble. Our mission is to equip writers with the tools necessary to get published and be successful, and we think Lane will have a lot of insight into this process that he'll be able to talk to you guys about. So we're really excited about his book, The Delivery Co. We're going to talk about it for a minute. So Lane, how were you inspired to write The Delivery Company?
What originally inspired me to write the delivery company was kind of this overall question of what if, and specifically, what if the government decided that those of us with a chronic illness or disability were not worth taking care of anymore, right? Like if we were basically, and literally in the case of my book, thrown out into the trash. And from there, it kind of built into this big even more question of how would that form the overall society, and what would it be like to see this world through the eye of someone who started inside the facility itself that the government is creating these ideal children, and then how is it to start with also another character who started on the outside and sees this other character and the other world.
So speaking about the world, how did you create your world, and like any kind of tips on world building that you can share with us?
So my world is our world. Essentially, it's a dystopian view on what could be seen as like a post-apocalyptic alternative history sort of situation in the near future. Um, and as far as world building goes, I think the most important things for me are always why and how did the world get to this point, and what is it, what are those details within the world that really affect the characters and the story, and this can be as minute or as large scale as you need. But a lot of things that I tend to focus on with world building first start with usually the government, because whether you have one or not, it is important to know that fact and their reach and their policies and their overall influence on the world, because oftentimes, especially in YA dystopian, which is the genre of the delivery company, um, you have a corrupt government, right? You have these people who are in charge and don't necessarily do things the way that they should be done. And you start with that, and then you start with how is it similar also to our world, and how is it different, and think about everything from technology to healthcare and accessibility too, especially in my book where multiple characters have a disability or a chronic illness and they can't necessarily get around or do things as much as other people, or they do things in a different way. And so you have to think about that a lot as well along the way.
Mhm. So one thing that interested me, Dean Tipper, which is your antagonist, did I say his name right?
Yes.
He, it seems like he had a reason. I mean, it's not the right reason, but
Mm-hmm.
he has his own reason, right, for throwing these people out. Can you like elaborate on that and why he justifies it?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring that up because I've had a few people ask me about the reason that he's rejected Anna. Now, the Anna being rejected is not a big plot twist, a big spoiler that literally happens at the end of the first chapter. So, um, but kids are rejected typically. Replacements are what the kids are called within the facility of the delivery company, which is the government created to create the ideal child, right, for families who can't have or lost children. Um, Kids are typically rejected at birth or shortly thereafter if they have developed some sort of chronic illness or they have a disability. In Anna's case, neither of those things happened. She was still rejected by Dean Tipper. And for all the reasons we know, it was because she admitted to being the one who stole, the name card that belonged to him, a piece of his property. She's a thief. Therefore, she's going to be rejected. Obviously, I think that that is not the full reason, and we'll see why later on. But yeah, he's definitely vengeful. He's been waiting for an opportunity to get rid of her, and there is a bigger reason behind the rejection of Anna, and specifically with Dean Tipper. And but overall, he's got his own thing and his own view on the replacement children and the rejected, and the reasons behind the whole thing. And as we move through the whole series, you kind of see the overall plot for the government as a whole, and also Dean Tipper, and realize it's definitely not as small or as innocent as it seemed at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your favorite scene that you wrote, and can you tell us why?
Oh, at least with book one, I think it would be,
I guess without spoilers.
yeah, that's the tough part. No, I don't think this is a spoiler. So I would say one of my favorite scenes that I've ever written so far for the series would be the beach scene with Scorcher and Anna, um, because it's a somewhat of a more intimate moment. It's a private moment. We get more of a view into the relationship and the personalities of them, and you see Anna being brought into a place and a moment and a vulnerability of Scorcher that you don't he would never show anyone else. And she it becomes kind of like a place to return to in their mind later on as well. And it's a nice break from all of the chaos that's also going on around the world, but it still progresses the plot and character development at the same time. And I also just really like that imagery and the scene as a whole. I think it's very soothing and very peaceful and happy for me to write.
The vulnerability, I can say it. Vulnerability is so important to show in characters. It definitely humanizes them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's probably a good contrasting scene with all the crazy things that are happening. Just 1 minute where it calms down and they're normal people for a minute. For sure. Who's your favorite character?
Yeah, it's funny because I even after just mentioning that scene, I'd say Scorcher is my favorite character. He's a secondary character who becomes larger, and I think it's just like the mystery of him, as well as his whole backstory and his personality is a little more similar to mine, as opposed to other characters within the book and the series. And I think he's got a really great arc and a great relationship, and he's an overall great guy. But he also struggles with things too. And so, we see a little less of him in book one than we will in book two. Um, but I really love Scorcher, I think. And a number of people have also told me that they thought Scorcher was their favorite, which was nice for me because I'm glad to see other people enjoyed him as much as I did. But I'm never upset if other people don't find him as great. But I enjoy writing him and seeing his story progress.
What is it about his character that you built into him that makes you connect to him?
I think it's how he handles his himself and his relationship with others. He's very kind. He gets the job done when he needs to, but he's also very much take care of the group, um, make sure people are okay, but he's also kind of naive and a little like I'd say he's kind of similar to how I used to be in early relationships as well. When your first relationship or two, you're a little naive, you're a little worried, you're like, am I doing this right? Does she hate me? Uh, and but he's also confident at times too, and he's very skilled when it comes to the things that he's passionate about and that he's spent time training for. But he's very much not skilled in the things that he hasn't trained for yet. One of those which is relationships at first. So it's just interesting, then, and I just see at least a little bit of a reflection in him of me.
Yeah, so he's confident until he's put in this new situation with Anna, and Anna brings out like a vulnerable side of him.
Absolutely, yeah.
The most
Mhm.
relatable. What would you say is the most effective way to, and I struggle with this, but the most effective way to kill off a beloved character to really make the reader feel it?
I love that we're talking about this because I, no spoilers, but I've done this and will continue to do this uh, throughout the series. I'm no George R. Martin, I'm not killing off everybody, but I'd say that honestly, the most effective way to kill off a beloved character, well, first is to create the beloved character. You want to make sure that all of your characters are essential and feel connected to the overall story, regardless of their size. Sometimes people like to say in acting there are no small parts, just small actors, which may or may not be true. But at least on the side of writing, I like to think that every role, every part is important, or it shouldn't be there. So that's step one. Step two is to make sure that the manner of death or the impact of the death directly relates to the story as well, and or character progression and development to the other major characters. Um, if you can show the the grief and the importance of that character's death on another character, that is a very good way to show to effectively kill them off without it seeming unnecessary or random.
Mhm.
You bring that, show the passion, show the grief, show the void that was created when this character was killed or removed from the situation and the unit that they were a part of. And I think that is the most effective way to kill off a character.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a really good tip. It can affect the other character's arc and
Hmm.
stay with them through the whole series.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
bring them back around if you can every now and then, in memories or something, because that will show how important they were as well to the characters.
Yeah, as long as you're not pulling a Vampire Diaries, right?
Yes, yeah,
And
absolutely.
they came back.
Yeah, my characters do not come back. There's no resurrection. I'm sorry.
That was my biggest pet peeve in that series. My husband loved it, and I was watching it, and I was like, they just kill him and then they bring him back. Like, it's not exciting anymore when somebody dies. I'm like, oh, I'll see him again in a couple episodes.
Yeah, it feels like a waste, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the deaths lose impact when you do that.
Hmm.
Are there any themes in the delivery company that really spoke to you, like that made you excited and passionate at a deeper level with the delivery co?
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall themes of the book kind of center around found family, alternative family, and um, this idea of self-reliance, but also learning to trust others, at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I have characters within the book and the series that start as more of a lone wolf sort of situation, right? And but they learn that if they can help the other characters grow and learn to trust them, then maybe those characters can help them as well. And then the same, the opposite way, there are characters who are very much around and about the group, but then they learn to trust themselves and to grow as a person. So there's that. But then also, the found family and alternative family thing is a very big theme within the book as well. And I think that's very important because a lot of people tend to think that that family is who you're born with, but in reality, as you grow and you age, and I think you start to realize that family is the group of people you choose to be around and to be vulnerable with, regardless of their blood or origin. If you decide that you're family, then you're family, and that's something that's a little bit bigger too within the series, that some characters take a little bit longer to realize, but um, if you can learn to trust that person and you fully love that person, platonically or otherwise, you can consider them family, and you don't necessarily have to be adopted on adoption day within the delivery company to get a family. Just because you were rejected doesn't mean you don't have a family. It just means you have a different family than the one you imagined you would have.
Hmm. I think that's really relatable to a lot of people, definitely. So the overall, I don't want to give too much away, but the overall premise and the idea of your book is really unique. I don't even know if I have seen it done. So what gave you that first idea? Did it all come at once, or did it kind of start off as like a little seed and just kind of trickle into more things?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you asked that because I was writing this book. It all started right around the time I was performing full time in a musical. So I was writing to and from the city, about 4 hours round trip every day for 5, 6 days a week. So performing, excuse me, in the show, 8 shows a week, understudying 3 lead roles while doing the ensemble and rehearsals and all that stuff, right? So writing the book, doing that. Well, during this time, I also was struggling with a lot of medical issues. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease the year prior, and was dealing with a lot of that. And I had an obstruction during the time of the show, so I was out for an entire week, and that I think really pushed me forward into this book idea of kind of thinking, like, what would happen if I had this issue and people just said, sorry, your condition, your underlying condition that you have been born with and did not choose is something that we don't want to cover or we don't want to take care of. So, you don't deserve to live. Um, and then I ran with that because in the span of 2020, not only was there a global pandemic, I was in the hospital for probably a roughly 30 days of the year as well, undergoing 3 major surgeries, pneumonia, and an obstruction. So, I had an ostomy bag for 9 months, as well, and so, there's, as well as all the other, like, the pain and everything else. um I had all these other things, and then mentally, with that, dealing with that as well, and my ADHD, it's a lot to go with, to live with. Um and I used that as inspiration and uh experience to drive forward the book, and to put it into characters and show that there are people who deal with these things, and they may not be the same for everyone. Which is another big thing too in the book. It's like, I did my research, I interviewed, I talked to people, I read a lot of scholarly journals, and I drew from personal experience. But I'm never going to get everyone represented. But my goal is to have as true of representation as possible of as many variations on the group as possible. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a lot of personal experience as well. So the Crohn's definitely influenced the book process, and actually specific character within the series as well. So
Got your truth in it.
yes, yeah.
So Brooke, we got time for one more question. Do you have one? If not, I do.
Yeah. What has kept you excited and motivated throughout this writing process to keep going?
I think honestly, the motivation to finish the series, and continue creating more and more stories is the readers. It's not, and for myself, I mean, I am a little selfish when it comes to that. I want to finish it too, but I'd be a lot slower at it and maybe never get it done if it was just for me. But
Mhm.
I know that it has impacted at least one person very much, if not more. And the book sold very well, in its first couple months, and I had somebody message me directly and say, this helped me a lot in a time where I was down. I felt happy, and I felt like I connected with this character specifically because I deal with a similar issue. And it's now one of my favorite books, and that meant so much to me. Um,
Cool.
that I could get 1,000 one-star reviews and have that one 5-star review and personal message and be happy and think that I did my job. And in
Mhm.
fact, I wrote back and I said, thank you so much. I would love for you to be a beta reader for the next 2 books if you can. And they will be. So that
Like authors,
that
that's all
keeps me going.
cool. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's
That's really cool.
Well, thank you so much, Lane, for joining us today. And be sure to join us next week when we have him talk about marketing strategies as an indie author. His book, The Delivery Company, is available on Amazon, Kindle, and your local bookstores. And it is a trilogy, so book 2 will be coming out later this year in 2021. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and don't forget to ring the bell so you'll be notified when our next video is up. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.